You are listening to the DIY Marketing School podcast. I am your host and your marketing coach, Melanie Diane Howe. And today I'm more of that coach person because I'm going to share 4 mindset shifts that are going to help you take more action. Well, hey there, everybody. I am so stoked you're here. We're going to talk about some mindset shifts today. So I know mindset stuff it's becoming pretty popular, I think, because people are just in general becoming more self-aware of their limitations or what holds them back. And there's a lot of, books, a lot of great self-help books that have come out that have become really popular. We have amazing thought leaders and motivational speakers who kind of take a life coach approach to their content, like Rachel Hollis, for example. I love her. She's fantastic. There's so many ways for us to, just become self-aware of what's limiting us and our limiting beliefs. But then also there's a lot of great advice out there as well. But today I wanted to kind of share with you some of the things that have really helped me, just some kind of concepts or, like I said, almost mindset shifts. That is a mouthful. I dare you to say mindset shifts 3 times really fast. You are going to do that right now. I'm going to let you try it. How'd that work out for you? I am not going to even try that right now on this podcast episode. But okay, here's the deal. Let me just give you a little bit of background. So I know that this podcast is primarily, obviously, it's about teaching you how to do your own marketing, how to go get yourself out there, how to utilize the wonderful world of social media to make a difference in the world and a greater impact by expanding your reach, sharing your gifts with the world. I believe so strongly that if we have the courage and we utilize these tools correctly and appropriately, we can make such a massive difference in the world, but we can also get our gifts out there even more to help other people and just help even more people, whether it be to lead them into your business where you can help them or even leading them into the services or products that you sell that will benefit them in their life. Or just simply, like I said, just making a bigger difference, getting a bigger impact out there by sharing your gifts with the world. So the reason why I want to bring and talk about mindset today is because I think that there are, when we're running a business or owning a business or building a business or dreaming about our business, there are a lot of things that can get in the way. It's a lot of hard work. It's requires you to be very disciplined with how you use your time, with how you focus, with how you plan, with how you strategize. I mean, it requires a lot of brain power. And we also have to stretch ourselves. We have to put ourselves outside the zone. We all, hear that concept all the time. You aren't going to make progress. You aren't going to really go anywhere unless you're willing to stretch yourself and put yourself out of that comfort zone. And so whether it be you're, making a big decision in your business or whether you're like putting a post on social media, the mindset around all of this stuff is really critical and really important. And so I think that one of the skills that we have to develop as business owners or thought leaders or personality brands, whatever it is that you want to call yourself, you've got to be able to create a way. You got to be self-aware of what holds you back. And a lot of it is going to be fear-based. And then you also have to come up with your own system to work through those fears so that you can take action. If any of you follow me on social media, especially Instagram, the hashtag is Melanie Diane, spelled D-Y-A-N-N. I highly encourage you to go follow me and connect with me over there. I love Instagram. I think it's a great tool. But I recently put out there that my word of the year, and it's now, January 2020, my word this year is action. And I think that I really feel equipped. I feel ready. I feel like I am so self-aware of the things in my past that have held me back. And I am really excited to apply a lot of the things that I've learned either through my experience, but also just the concepts and the insights and tips that I have applied to myself that have helped me take more action. And I really feel like this year, that is my number one focus, is taking action. And I that's why I'm kind of leading into this podcast episode, because what I want to share with you today are some mindset shifts that will help you take more action. These are the mindset shifts that are helping me take more action, and I'm going to continue to focus on them so that I can take as much action as possible in 2020. I don't really plan on making big goals this year. I don't plan on measuring my results necessarily or focusing on my results. I actually am focusing on taking care of all the little things so the big things take care of themselves. And that is by taking action. Those little things are going to be action oriented items. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to share the things that have been helping me and are the way that I focus on making sure that I can step forward into the person I'm supposed to be and build this business that I'm supposed to build so that I can reach more people. And really, take my own advice and my motto is always don't let your gifts go ungiven. And I am ready to share my gifts with the world, and I want to take more action so that I can do that. And so I'm going to share with you 4 mindset shifts today. And they all come from, little things I've heard from other thought leaders. And so I'll share that with you as well as we go through this, but I'm going to share all 4 of them with you and who they came from and how you can apply them to your everyday life, your personal life, but mostly I want you to focus mostly on your professional life. So be thinking about what you want to be doing this year, how, what's holding you back, what maybe have you not done in the past that you set out to do, or what are those things that you keep saying you're going to do, whether it be like Facebook Live, or you're going to do more video, or you're going to actually email people, you're going to send out emails to your list, launch that product you want to launch, apply to be that speaker on stage, whatever those things are. I want you to be thinking about those things that maybe you've been trying to do or wanting to do and you haven't been doing, or the things that you're planning to do this year that you're a little bit nervous about or maybe a little bit unsure of. And I want you to think about those things as we go through these 4 mindset shifts. Okay, so let's jump in, shall we? So the first mindset shift actually comes from a woman named Brooke Castillo. And she is the founder of a program called The Life Coach School. She also has a podcast that I highly encourage you to check out. It's really great. She teaches people how to be life coaches. And I really do believe that a lot of us in business, a lot of what we end up having to focus on or teach is mindset. And so we have to coach a lot of our customers or our clients through things, just like I find myself doing that often. And so I really like her podcast because it not only does it help me, I feel like I get coached on the podcast, but I also learn how I can be a better coach, even for my daughter, like even just to help my daughter work through things. But really, the way I discovered Brooke Castillo and the way I discovered this concept that I'm about to share with you is from when she was a guest on Amy Porterfield's podcast. And that podcast is called Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield. And it's episode 217. And I'll link to it in the show notes so that you can go right to that podcast episode. It is so good, you guys. Like, this is one of those podcast episodes that I listen to. I've probably listened to it a dozen times. And I share this episode with people all the time. And I will probably talk about this episode again on my own podcast. And I talk about it in my own content. But what she says is that she wants us to stop. Like when you sit down for a task or you're ready to tackle something, she doesn't want you to work on it. She wants you to produce it. And this is such a great shift in how we think about doing things. So for example, are you sitting down and working on your website? Like, did you work on your website all morning, or did you produce it? And I think a lot of times we get stuck working on things, but we don't really think about it as producing it. So she gives great examples in the podcast episode, but it is just such a different way to approach a task. If you say, okay, I'm not going to work on this email. I'm going to produce it and send it. Like, I'm going to get this thing done. So you're producing it, meaning you're like making it, you're creating it, you're finishing it, not working on it. Working on it never has an ending. If you're just working on it, there's no end in sight. You're not necessarily completing it or even focused on completing it. But if you sit down and say, I'm going to produce this email, that's a whole different way of approaching that task than to say, I'm going to sit down and work on this email, or like I said, the website. I know a lot of business owners spend a lot of time working on their websites. They spend a lot of time working on a lot of their content. And it's because they're not feeling confident, or it's not getting to the where they believe that it's good enough, or they kind of dinker a lot and dabble in a lot of things. They spend a lot of time learning and researching, and they don't spend enough time actually getting it done, producing it. And so I really love this concept of sit down to work on it, stop sitting down to work on it and start producing it. I love it. So think about that and how you can kind of tackle your tasks, tackle the things that you need to get done and produce them instead of work on them. Now, the next concept is one of our reasons why I think that we don't produce things. We work on things, but we don't produce things. And this also comes from Brooke Castillo. And this for me was a huge game changer when I first listened to this back in 2018 is when this episode was released. And it's the same episode 217. She talks about that concept I just discussed, but also this one. And that is what I call the concept of B- work. And what she basically talks about here is that so often we're trying and striving for the A+, or even just the A in the things that we're doing in our lives and in our work. And she's like, screw that. Like, why don't you just go ahead and say a B- is good enough? And let's think about your children. I mean, I'm sure you want your kids to get A's and straight A's. I never got straight A's. Not once in my entire life did I ever get straight A's. Not once. Not even like back in elementary when you kind of just got grades for participating. Not once in my whole life did I ever get straight A's. There's a fun fact about Melanie right there. But either way, the B-, I mean, if your child comes home and gets a B- in math or something, I mean, you're not going to like ground them or scold them. I mean, yeah, you might want them to get an A. You might want them to work to improve it to an A, but a B- is completely acceptable. A B- is okay. Why would we measure ourselves any differently? Yes, there are going to be times that you're going to knock it out of the freaking park. You're going to get an A. You're going to do a Facebook Live and you're going to click end Facebook Live and your DMs are going to go crazy or the comments are going to go crazy and you're going to walk away feeling like $1,000,000. You like nailed it. And then there's going to be times that you don't nail it and maybe it's a B-. And I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a B-. It's probably going to be a B- and it's going to be perfectly fine. Because here's the deal. A B- is better than an incomplete. So, if you don't actually complete the work, you get an incomplete in a class, right? You don't want to get an incomplete in your business. You want to go for the B-. And so I loved this concept that Brooke shared again in that podcast episode with Amy Porterfield. It was just kind of like an eye opener for me. I mean, I think that we hear about it as perfectionism and we hear, hey, don't go for perfect. You'll never get there. But I just liked the way that, I don't know, it just made sense with me. So a lot of times I have to ask myself, hey, why are you still working on this? Why aren't you producing it? Oh, it's because you're trying to work on something to create an A+ product. Just go for the freaking B- and get it done. Turn in the assignment, accomplish it, be done with it, produce it. So 1 and 2 kind of go together there. So stop working on stuff, go for the B- and produce that damn thing. Okay? Get it done, publish it. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Go ahead and let yourself know it's not going to be perfect, and go ahead and tell yourself a B- is perfectly acceptable because it is, people. It is. Okay? I'm giving you permission. A B- is completely fine. It's way better than an incomplete, isn't it? Okay. So next, the third thing I want to share with you comes from this phrase I'm going to use has been said in many different ways. It's a concept, but it hit home for me back in 2018. I had the pleasure of being at a conference. Again, Amy Porterfield. So many of my wonderful insights and learnings come through that woman, whether it be a person she's recommending, a person she's had on her podcast, or stuff that she teaches. But I was at her entrepreneurship experience event, and Marie Forleo, who I love me some Marie Forleo. She was at this event, and I had the pleasure of hearing Marie do a Q&A with the crowd. And somewhere in the response, I don't even know what the question that was asked, but I remember it was like what she said hit me really hard. And she said, action generates courage. And I was like, and then she went on to kind of talk about so often we wait for the courage so that we then can take action. We say, oh no, I'm not brave enough yet. I'm not ready yet. And so we wait for the courage in order to take action. But that is what Maria is saying here is that that's backwards. When you take action, you actually get more courageous. And so action generates courage. And the other thing that she talks about a lot, and she talks about this in her book, and the book is called Everything is Figure-Outable, is that clarity comes from action. So here's the deal. Sometimes we don't feel like we're brave enough. Other times we feel like we don't know what the hell we're doing. Well, take action anyway, because the more action you take, the more courageous you become and the more clarity you gain. Because when you don't take action, you can't assess, you can't test things, you can't see things, you can't see results, you can't feel how it felt. You can't watch it and say, oh, here's what I would do differently, or here's where I would improve that. You can't take the B- and make it an A-. If you don't take action, you get nothing. So what the whole point I want to say here is I want you to repeat it to yourself. Action generates courage. So when you don't feel brave or when you're afraid to do something or you're nervous, I want you to trust that the more action you take, the more courageous you become. You will become more brave. And I can tell you this, share a little story with you. And the reason I know this to be true is because, I love speaking on stage. I love to talk to people. I love to speak to large crowds. I don't the size of the crowd doesn't even really scare me anymore. It might make me anxious or it might give me extra butterflies, but I am never going to say no to an opportunity because of a size of a crowd. When I was in high school, a long time ago, I was the mascot, by the way. Fun fact about Mel. You've got 2 fun facts about me now. But I was the mascot and I loved it. It was so fun. I really have always enjoyed entertaining people. And so naturally, for one of the pep rallies, I was a senior by this time. At one of the pep rallies, they said, hey, will you be one of the EMCs? They always had student EMCs and, do all the pep rally stuff. And I was like, yeah, that would be so fun. I would love to do that. And I ended up doing it with one of my teachers and coaches who I knew really well. And I was so nervous. I was actually when it came up and it was time to do it, I was freaking terrified. And I remember him saying to me, he goes, yeah, I used to get nervous about stuff like this too. He's like, but I just don't really care anymore. I just go out there and I just do it. And he's like, even if I screw up, who cares? Whatever, Granted, he's a teacher and he has nothing to prove. Here I am surrounded by hundreds of my peers and friends, and I don't want to look like a fool or be silly. But this was the first time that I actually had an opportunity to be kind of I guess I would say the and I'm putting air quotes up, the entertainment. Meaning I had a microphone and people were focused on me, right? I had played sports and I had been in the spotlight plenty of times, but this was very different. I was freaking terrified. I was so nervous. I felt frozen the whole time. And I had friends tell me after, they're like, you looked terrified the whole time. You looked scared. You were scared. We could see it. And I was like, ugh, well, that's no fun. That sucks. But that was the first time I remember, and I almost didn't do it. I literally almost didn't go out there and do it. And it was to do a high school pep rally, announce people's names as they walk out, really no big deal, right? Fast forward. Okay. Now, last year I got asked to do 2 things that I was super excited to do. One, Amy actually Porterfield asked me to share, do what they called minutes of motivation, sorry. And it was basically, hey, you have about 5 minutes. It's kind of a transition point. We want to bring people up on the stage, and you're one of them. We want you to just kind of share your story and just, kind of just get people motivated. Give them, share your story that's motivational, and it's kind of a transition. And then you'll introduce Amy as she comes back out for her next session. And so I was like, heck yes. And there were going to be 800 people there. And I was not nervous. I was actually excited to have an opportunity to talk to 800 people. And I knew I was going to be fine because in between that time when I had to be the EMC in high school to this moment in 2019, when I was going to get to be on stage in front of 800 amazing, incredible entrepreneurs, I knew I would be fine. I knew I might be nervous, but I also knew it was all going to be just fine. It was going to work out. I was going to survive it. And then I was going to enjoy it. And I knew that it was going to help me improve in so many ways. And I also knew it was going to give me more and more courage to get on the next big stage. And the reason I knew this is because for the last 20 years of my life, I've been doing speaking. I've been willing to present to people. I, remember the very first time I had a paid seminar, and it was to a bunch of administrative professionals. And I was nervous because I had never done a paid presentation or seminar. I'd never been asked to teach people something and be paid for it. So I was, nervous about it, but I did it. And I was like, I love this. This is so awesome. I love teaching people. And then I did workshops, and then I've done other seminars. And then I was on another stage, and it was the largest stage, about 4 years ago was 125 people. And I've done this enough to know that, I get nervous, and I'm going to be, a little bit unsure of the logistics of something, but I got this, right? I got this. I knew I was going to be just fine. And there was another time that I was a volunteer for a walking event, like a little 5K, 10K walking event. Not a ton of people, a few hundred people outside. And I decided to take my role and expand it to, hey, let me pump these people up before they go walk, half a marathon. So I grabbed the mic from the DJ, and I just decided to just speak and pump people up and get going. And it was really fun. And it actually worked out so well. They're like, hey, you should do that every year. So I did it for another 7 years. And because of that opportunity, because I did it and I knew I'd be just fine, even though I didn't know what the heck I was going to say, even though I had never done anything like that before, I got asked last year, again in 2019, to be the master of ceremonies and the finish line announcer for a huge running event here in Indiana. It's called the Monumental Marathon, and it's sponsored by people. I'm not going to, shout that stuff, but it's the Monumental Marathon in Indianapolis. It's an Olympic trials qualifying marathon. It's a big deal. 19,000 runners and obviously a bunch of spectators. And when I got asked to do it, I was like, heck yeah, I can do that. I can figure it out. There was a crowd of 25,000 people there when I was doing this first time ever, literally the first time ever, doing the announcing of the opening ceremony. I mean, I had never done it. Was I nervous? Yes, I was pretty nervous. It was a huge audience. But I had actually just come back from the entrepreneur experience, and I was like, I'll be just fine. I've done this enough. So the reason I'm sharing this story with you is because the reason I was able to say yes to both of those super scary opportunities without hesitation is because I have taken enough action to lead myself into having more and more courage. Had I been asked to do either of those opportunities, multiple years ago, I don't know if I would have done it. I may have said, I'm probably not qualified to do it. Or I also think about, what if I did say yes many, many, many years ago? And it was before I had had all those other opportunities to build up my courage muscles. What if I wasn't there yet? It would have been a lot scarier, a lot harder, and I maybe wouldn't have done as good, right? I'll be honest with you. I think that because of all those other opportunities in between, I think I did pretty good. And I think I actually was able to have fun because I knew that not only was I stretching myself, I was putting myself into a place where I was building these courage muscles. And I was setting myself up for the next opportunity so that I can say yes with confidence and also know that, hey, I've done something like this before. I can do it. So that's that whole concept. And the reason I share that story with you is because I wanted to give you a real example from a real person who has taken this concept of action generates courage. It's not the other way around. That the more action you take, the more courageous you become, the bigger opportunities you're going to say yes to, the less scared you're going to be, the more courageous you're going to be to stretch yourself even further. So I also had a friend recently say to me about some things that I have been kind of hesitant on doing, trying to work through why I'm not taking those risks. And he said, Mel, I want you to think about this for a second. What would your life look like right now if 2 years ago you had taken action and done this? And I was like, man, it'd be pretty awesome. I so wish I could fast forward right now. And so I keep reminding myself of that. The more action I take, the better off I'm going to be, the more set up for success I'm going to be, and the faster that process is going to look. So yes, we might fall, we might make mistakes on the way, but I still want you to focus on that. Action generates courage. I probably could have done an entire podcast episode on that concept, but we're going to keep moving. So now the fourth one is kind of I like to say it kind of wraps it all together. So the fourth concept is basically actually, how do you actually take that leap? How do you actually go across, like actually literally pull the trigger to take action? And so let's remember, we're going to produce things. We're not going to work on it. We're going to produce it. We're not going to be a perfectionist. We're going to go for that B- work. We're going to remind ourselves that by doing it, we're going to be even more courageous and we're going to set ourselves up for success. We're going to gain more clarity because we're taking more action, right? But how do we do it? Well, you just got to do it. And something that has really helped me is I read a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. And it's interesting because when I read her book, I actually used to have a friend that would always encourage me and coach me. She would say, Mel, you can pretty much do anything with about 30 seconds of insane courage. Like if you just give yourself 30 seconds, if you say, I'm the most courageous person in the entire world for 30 seconds, you can pretty much do anything. Like whether it be make a phone call, whether it be to, do something like, jump off of a diving board, go bungee jumping, go try to ski for the first time, to actually start the process. She's like, you just need 30 seconds of insane courage to start the process. So she used to always say that to me and I loved it. But so when I read Mel Robbins' book, basically she takes that exact same concept, but she shortens it to 5 seconds. So the gist of it is that you count down. So she wants you to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, take action, right? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And whether it be you're trying to hit go live on your phone to go live for the first time or every time, or walk out on stage, or hit send, hit your broadcast email to send out your e-blast, whatever those things might be, she says you just need 5 seconds. You just need to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you go. And you don't let yourself, and the whole concept of it is that we give ourselves too much time to think about things or to try to build ourselves up. We give ourselves too much time. And what ends up happening is we talk ourselves out of it, or we talk ourselves into doing something less or doing something different or pivoting or, flip-flopping our goal, right? And so the book is great. I highly encourage you to read it. It's called The 5-Second Rule. It's by Mel Robbins. I would also encourage you, if you kind of like that tough love, really get your butt into action. Like Mel Robbins has an amazing Instagram profile. I love following it. There are a lot of little short videos and just a lot of things that sometimes we need to hear. She's that kind of tough voice that we sometimes need, that, kick in the pants, get it done kind of voice. And she's fantastic. And this book is fantastic. And so I really liked the concept of the 5 seconds. And the way you do this is that you need to know what you want to do. You need to visualize what you're going to produce. And then you get yourself set up. And then when it's time to go, when it's go time, you count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And by doing the countdown, you really it creates a momentum and you can't stop yourself. And the reason why she counts down is because there's no other numbers after 1. But, when we count up, it's like, oh, I'm going to count to 5 and on 5, go. Well, you can keep counting if you really want to. And so she likes to count down because it creates a different kind of urgency. And I kind of agree. And she comes up with this whole concept comes from her literally trying to get herself out of bed in the morning and not hitting snooze and being ready to face her really, really tough days. And so she decided, I just need to launch myself out of bed. And so she created this countdown like a rocket launching. And so she talks about all this stuff in the book and gives you, it's full of stories, so many inspirational stories, but a lot of really great tips, a lot of great ways that you can apply this to your life. Okay, so that's it, you guys. These are 4 concepts that like I said, I pretty much either learned or they were inspired by other thought leaders that are doing really, really big things. Like they have multi-million-dollar businesses and lifestyles, and they have been so wonderful to share their knowledge with us. And so, but they all go together. And so again, let's just do a quick recap. So the first one comes from Brooke Castillo, and it's basically stop sitting down and working on crap and actually sit down with the mindset that you're going to produce it. Okay, so you're going to produce it, not work on it. Because when you say, I'm going to work on this, there's no end, there's no finish. So sit down and say, I'm going to produce it. Producing has a finish. It means you're going to launch it, you're going to publish it, you're going to send it, you're going to do it. So sit down with that mindset when you actually work on your stuff. The second concept, also comes from Brooke Castillo, and that's the concept of B- work. Stop going for the A+ and give yourself permission that a B- is completely okay. And I want you to remember that a B- is better than an incomplete. And then the third one comes from Marie Forleo, where she says, action generates courage. You need to stop waiting on courage to take action. The more action you take, the more courageous you're going to become. And also, just kind of like a nice little reward, is that clarity comes from action too. And so you're going to get more clarity on the direction you need to go in your business, in your life, because you're taking action. And we all need that clarity. And then lastly, I want you to use the 5-second rule from Mel Robbins, which is you're basically, when it's time to go, it's go time. You're going to give yourself 5 seconds. You're going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do it. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to do it. You're going to take action. You're going to get more courageous. You're going to get clarity. You're going to be perfectly fine with the B- work, and it's going to be produced. All right. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you take these concepts and apply them to your 2020 or your 2021 or whatever, whenever, wherever you are in your life and in your business. But I want you to take more action. I want to see what you do with your life and with your business, whether, again, be just putting stuff on social media or getting on big stages and doing other really big things. It doesn't matter. You can apply this concept and these mindset shifts into anything you're working on in your business and in your life. So there you have it. That is this episode of the DIY Marketing School podcast. I want you to do me a favor. If you found this helpful, I would love for you to share this with somebody that you think maybe could benefit from these mindset shifts. I feel really passionate about these, if you could not tell. And I just want to make a difference. I want to make an impact, and I want to help people. And these have helped me so much. And not everybody is reading or focused on thought leaders and has the ability to pull these types of insights together. And so if you find this helpful and impactful and inspiring or motivating, share it with one person, even one person. Find it, share it with them via a text message. Or if you go on your social media and share it on your social media and just help people understand how you're going to take action this year. And I would love to reach more people so that we can get more and more people sharing their gifts with the world. And one of the ways to do that is, again, to just take more action in their social media and get more done so that they can reach more people. We all have gifts to share. We all have a book inside of us. We all have a difference to make in this world. And I just want to see more and more people embracing that and stepping into the role that they should be stepping into. So I would love you forever if you did that. Thank you so much for listening in today. And until next time, go be awesome.